Leap of Fate podcast fans. Welcome to this week's episode with yours truly, Randy Silver. As we always start every episode, I want to say thank you to my audience out there, Loft Gang, Ride and Die. Y'all are great, and I can't wait for you to hear this episode or watch this episode with Victoria Wieck. If you recognize her name, it's because she is extremely famous in the jewelry world. She was on HSN for 19 straight years. Let me say that again. 19 years on HSN. And now she's on ShopHQ, also known as ShopNBC. Why is Victoria on today? She epitomizes what the leap of faith is and following your dreams and coming over and making something when you don't have nothing. She immigrated from South Korea with only $30 in her name for a family of 7. She did not let this deter her. She started her own business with no money, no mentors, no inside connections, and grew it to, let's say it, $500 million in sales. One more time, $500 million in sales. That's unreal. That's the most that someone's ever been on this. So we're going to learn so much from Victoria about entrepreneurship, running your business, sales, everything that goes into it, mindfulness, meditation, that mentality. Now let's take that to the next level. Is she took the leap of fate on herself, and for her entrepreneurship journey, she's able to now be able to spend time with her kids. She didn't miss their first day of school, soccer games, recitals, plays, etc., etc. She has a nice social media following from everything she does with jewelry. So Victoria is here today to talk all about that and more, and we can't wait for her to come on. So we're going to bring her on now. Hopefully she's blushing, because that was a great way to introduce yourself, almost like a Roman princess coming in. Look at everything I've done. Victoria, welcome to the podcast.
I was going to say, that's not even me. What are you talking about, right? It sounds like listening to somebody else's story the way you say it.
But so then let's just dive into it. First reaction, like, that is what you've accomplished. I'm sure there's stuff I've missed. That little girl who came over from South Korea. Did you ever imagine in your wildest dreams that's something that you'd be able to do?
No. Let me just back up a little bit,
please,
and tell you a little bit about why we left South Korea.
Yeah.
So I was a young girl, 12, 13 years old. And my father, I lived in a nice little seaside village. And, we weren't like super rich or anything, but as a kid, I didn't really know if you were poor or rich. You had food to eat and, the sunset every day. So life was pretty good for me. But every so often, we for South Korea standards at that time, because they had just gone through the war and all that stuff, our house was considered large. And my mom would sometimes open the front door, and we would find a little infant at our front door, wrapped up and everything. And it was always a girl, and a mom who couldn't feed the child would likely leave the kid at our front door. And my mother would say to me, if that was a boy, that mother would have died before she would give up her child. So wow. We came from the society at that time where girls weren't wanted. They were, abandoned or aborted, whatever. So my father had 4 girls, and I'm the oldest of the 4. And my youngest child is a boy in my family. So he didn't want to raise his girls in a society where the best you could be is like be somebody's wife and so forth. So my father said, you know what, if my daughters want to be somebody's wife and, she wants to be a stay-at-home mom, let her be her choice and not the society's choice. So,
I understand that.
So he came here, and then lo and behold, we got here, and then all our money got frozen and everything else. So we found ourselves with $30 and for a family of 7. So it was pretty rough. And, I went to school in East LA where, they had barbed wires. And I mean, that was like horrifying at that time. So to think that, man, I used to tell my dad all the time, cry every night and tell him, like, this whole thing about American dream is like really stupid, because it's a dream that will never actually come true. I begged him to, go back to Korea. We tried to go back, but we didn't have the money to go back. So we stayed. So to answer your question, Did I dream of becoming successful? No,
So that leads me to a couple questions. Did you guys know English when you came over here?
no, no,
So
not a word.
what was it like learning English while trying to go to school? I assume probably in an English school.
Yeah, that's interesting because nobody really has, I don't think, asked me that question. So
We asked the tough
basically,
questions here and Leap of Faith.
apparently so. I didn't speak any English. No one spoke any English. My father tried to learn some English, because he knew he was coming here because he had waited for many years. So he spoke very broken English, but not conversational English. But I didn't understand English. So when I went to school, and there was no English as second language classes at that time. So I used to draw. I used to sketch things to try to describe what I'm talking about. And so I kept drawing, and then my parents went to work from like 6 a.m. to midnight. They each worked two jobs. So I would get up because I'm the oldest of the five. I'd get up first thing in the morning, and I would try to send them off to work so that they knew that the kids would be taken care of. It was just heartbreaking to see my parents just work like, from,
Nonstop.
they left when it was dark. They came back when it was dark. My dad listed like 200, he picked out 200 random words from an American dictionary. And it was up to me to then find the definition of it. So English to English dictionary. So half the time I'm looking at a dictionary word and then I'm trying to learn the English. And then there'd be like 6 other words I didn't understand. So then I would write those down. Eventually within a year, I kind of mastered the basic language, like 2,500 words or so. But then years later, I would sketch to express my feelings, which then led into my jewelry designs. So that adversity actually, because a lot of jewelry designers out there in the world, they'll design pretty things, but they don't have feelings for it. My designs actually came from feelings. So, yeah.
I'm going to touch on in a second. You talked about your parents. I want to touch on that because 2 jobs, each person, 6 a.m. to dark. That shows that they were there for y'all, and they sacrificed their life to make a better life for y'all. As a child, like, what was that like, not having your parents around, but knowing they were doing that for the betterment of you? They moved their whole life, left the whole family in South Korea for you to have a better chance at your life.
So Randy, I think you're really hitting a lot of these chords that I had not visited for a long time. You're absolutely right in that it was really heartbreaking for me to watch them.
Yeah.
Like in Korea, they never worked that hard. I mean, our life was pretty good. My mom never went out, they're culturally, she never, went outside. And we had a maid and a cook. And so we came here, and then she's working like in a sewing factory until like her arms were literally hurt, to the point where like the next day she wasn't sure if it was actually working or not. And so it was really tough. And I would always, and this is the lesson I want your audience to kind of listen to, because I'm not here to tell my pity story. I want to tell the optimistic story of what you can do no matter what happens to you. So I thought to myself, even at that young age, like, what is the one thing I could do? The one thing that I could do instead of bitching, what is the one thing I could do? The one thing I could do was like, I learned to speak English just by doing that. The other thing too is I assured my parents every day that I, the oldest one, would take care of the other siblings. So by getting up in the morning, making sure there's breakfast, I cooked for, my younger siblings, and I kind of took them to school. I dropped my brother off at a nursery school on a bus. I took 3 buses. Now, fast forward a few years later, when I had started my own company, that's one of the reasons I started my company, because I didn't want to leave my children in the same way that my parents left me. Now, they left me because out of necessity. They made some incredible sacrifices, and they were so brave to come here and then just stuck it out, working, never any complaints. So when I started my company, and we'll get into that a little bit later about how one of the reasons why the company became as big as it did is because I prioritized my family first. Like when customers would tell me, do this or do that. If it didn't fit my kid's schedule, I said no. And the more I said no, the more customers came, believe it or not.
Which is so unique. You never would think that. You think business first.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite of that. So I want to jump the gun and ask you one question because I think it's relevant to this subject. And we'll go back. Obviously, you're very successful. What was that moment like when you could finally, retire your parents and they could live a comfortable life, not worrying about money anymore?
My parents were never materialistic. They were, and we'll talk about that too, about how the Eastern culture defines the word success. It's very different than money and fame over there.
Yeah.
So they were never really into that. But I think that, all throughout my life, since I was 15 years old, I helped out in the family finances. I went to work, helped them with paying bills because they had, 5 kids. And when my dad told me, he brought home a car one day, and I told him to give it to my younger sister because I drove a Pinto that used to blow up, hatchbacks, because it was the cheapest thing you could buy. And so, yeah, the idea that I could take care of my parents and they never had to worry about anything, and that they could live their American dream, which was for their daughters to be successful and be whoever they wanted to be. That means a lot to me and means a lot to them as well. And I think that also that story of, you can dream big. And the other thing I was going to tell you is that, I'm not Oprah. I'm not that successful. When you look at the successful people out there, but from where I came from, my only dream, really, I thought, like, if I could actually have my own car any car one day, and if I could actually, have my own apartment that I could pay for, that was my American dream. And I think I kind of hit that point when I was like maybe 19 years old or something. So, my dream just kept on, I guess, evolving. I kept evolving and elevating. And I think the most important thing, and I see a lot of successful people, that the journey itself was so tough, they have to become mean, or they have to become somebody else, or there's always that insecurity about, I have to show people I'm successful, so I'm driving a nice car. I don't do any of that. You can see I'm dressed in a very plain looking thing, yoga pants, and have anything designer or anything like that. In fact, I have a lot of empathy for people who don't have anything, because
know what it's like.
I know what it's like. And also, that they all have the potential to be whoever they want to be. They just need to believe in themselves. And if you look at my parents here, there were 2 highly intelligent people, educated people that, just down home, great people. They were stuck in a horrible situation. Just because they don't have any money, that doesn't negate who they are. So I always say to people, you know what, my father's been passed on. He died in 1999. He didn't have a lot of money, but what he left me was worth more than any money he could have left me, because the work ethic, the compassion, and just overall character, loyalty, all of that is just 100%, just straight out.
And I'm sure for your parents, seeing you and your family's success, and they probably just had a dream of, like you said, I don't want my daughter to have to be a housewife because that's what society is. She can make that choice. And they probably never dreamed in their wildest dreams of the success that you've been able to become as well.
Right. Yeah. My mom says that. She says that to me all the time. She's, I had lunch with her Saturday, and she said that exact same thing.
And I'm sure that they're so blessed and they're so humble to have that. And so I think that's a good segue to talking about the success that you've had, because you said at 19, your dream was to have my own car in my apartment. You achieved that at 19. So can you kind of take us back a little bit? Where did you start getting into jewelry design? How did you start forming that business or start making connections to make that happen?
Yeah. So, as I told you a couple of minutes earlier, my parents not materialistic. Yep. And in Korea, in my family, there's been a long tradition of what success is. And the word success in my families, we go back like to year 1310. We have our family genealogy going that back.
Did you say 1310?
Yeah, year 1310.
That is crazy. That's so far back.
I have books to stick of every single person that lived in our family. But so in our family, the word success is defined as a continuous balance between 5 things. And those 5 things are health, wisdom, not necessarily degrees, but just having the wisdom to, know what's right or wrong and all that. So health, wisdom, relationships, longevity. You could be healthy but still die very quickly, and then wealth is another one. So if you have all this money and you struggle and you make tons and tons of money, the risk is, do you have good relationship with your family, and do you have good health? Did you make the money honestly? Because if you don't, maybe you don't have the wisdom, right? So it's really that balance, the perfect balance between that. So they basically taught me that. But then the minute they came to America, they told me the fastest way to get to freedom, economic freedom, is to get, hyper educated, get yourself, college degrees, blah, blah, blah. So I did all that. And then my father also said, I've always loved art and music. And he said, did you ever, a guy by the name of Stevie Wonder? And I said, yeah, of course. And he said, well, do you think he went to Juilliard? And I said, no. So he said, music and art is something that comes from you. It's not something you can go and learn at a university. You either have a voice or you have So in fact, he believed that if you're a great artist, major art schools will actually kind of ruin your art. So he didn't want me to go to art school. So I went to business school. I got my degrees at UCLA, USC. And
you went to both of them.
Yes, I went to both.
That's fighting.
I know, to both. So I did all the right things, then got my jobs. And I was suffocating in corporate world. Like I was working the same hours my parents were doing, dawn to dusk. And I just said, you know what, I need to find a different path, because I just kept working. The more promotions I got, I just kept working longer and longer hours. And so I wanted to be at home. And so, I looked at what would it take for me to start a jewelry company. And everybody told me it was going to be impossible. You're crazy. All small businesses fail in the first, 75% of the business fail in the first year. And then whatever is left of them, half of them fail the following year. I mean, just on and on and on. So I basically started it with no money. I sketched my designs and I went to department stores near me, and I would ask the manager, like, if you had something that looks like this, could you sell it? Because, a lot of the jewelry out there were pretty ugly. And jewelry was sold based on how many carats, what grade, like this is a 2-carat diamond, this is how much, so it's more of a status at that time. And you had daytime jewelry, nighttime jewelry. So you have fancy jewelry you wore, to show off whatever. And then daytime jewelry, which was very junky costume. They didn't really have anything in between. So I thought, you know what, there are so many people that would love to have beautiful jewelry that would be like heirloom quality, meaning they have heirloom sort of kind of designs built into them. That's classic, but still with originality and high quality, but you don't have to spend thousands of dollars for it. There has to be a way to do that. So I started my company, sketching the pieces. And, lo and behold, like I started talking to people, and the department store buyers were like all over it. Like, oh yeah, we could sell it like all day. Let me, get you in touch with the buyer or so forth. So I didn't have a whole lot of money. And the first thing you have to do when you're a jeweler, you get one of those, floor to ceiling jewelry safes. And, they're like anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000 per safe, like the ones you see in the movies.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, well, first of all, I don't even have a lot of stuff. And secondly, I'm living in an apartment. I'm not going to be able to buy one of those. So I simply just went to the bank, B of A next door. It's a couple of blocks. And I just rented one of the safes. It was like $100 a year or something. And so this, whatever jewelry, because my business was so small, I just stuck it there. That was my safe. I figured the bank was safe, right?
So, yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. So that's how I started it. And then, eventually the business kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I ended up getting the department store buyers. So, I had individual people that were getting married and all that stuff, and they wanted like, low cost option. Then I started getting, because of my design ability, the real high end people in Hollywood, like, the $20,000, $50,000 pieces. Then I ended up getting corporate accounts. I was at Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom's, all the different stores. So that's what happened.
So when you first started, because you said you were sketching them, how did you turn your ideas into reality? Like, what was the process of getting that sketch on a paper made into like an actual piece of jewelry?
Yeah. So in the old days, you would actually have to ask a manufacturer to make a sample for you based on your renderings, okay, your specifications. And I really got, I hate to use this word, but I got screwed over many times, because a lot of the manufacturers would see like the designs are beautiful and they're very saleable, but they knew I didn't have the money to finance like 10,000 piece order. So they would actually make my samples and give it to some competitor of mine. So I'd go to a trade show and I'm still waiting for my sample. And then I'm looking at all these samples that are made out there already like on the market. I'm like, well, I know I sketched it. I'm not just crazy. I know I sketched. In fact, some of them even like copy my logo right into it, because my logo doesn't say Victoria Wieck on it. My logo actually is a beautiful scroll that has three of my favorite things, seashells, vineyard vines, and butterflies. And it's some form of that. And they actually even did the whole thing. Like, it was highly original. So I was too naive to kind of realize that. So, the future generation ones, I was very like into control. And, I had a few pieces made, and that was probably where most of my investment money went, which was, those models cost me like $200 a pop. And I did like 8 of them. And I took the actual samples and I was able to sell them. And, the great thing about gold jewelry was that there's intrinsic value in gold. So, so that was, I got it just 8. I started with just 8 pieces. And my first order, I remember, I didn't go to New York, which is where I should have gone, but I didn't go to New York because, and this is another lesson. I don't know how many of you listening right now are thinking about starting a business, any business.
There's a lot of entrepreneurs who listen to this. So
okay.
This is great advice, please.
Yeah, if you're an entrepreneur, okay, here's the thing that I want you to understand. You are going to fail, and I guarantee you will fail at something. You're not perfect. And so what I did was I planned my fail. So I made those samples and I didn't go to New York. All my customers were in New York. I didn't go there. I went to Dallas because I wanted to work out all my bugs. If my vendors couldn't make the hinge right, or the gold was too light or whatever, I was going to learn those mistakes in a smaller market where it didn't matter that much to me. So I went to Dallas. It was closer. The customers were smaller and they had a lot more patience. New York customers were like Saks Fifth Avenue, Macy's, all these, they were very snooty, and, everybody would just sell to them. So I went to Dallas market and I knocked down a lot of the small wholesalers. And I remember my first customer, I don't know if he's still alive or not, but his name was Afzal, Afzal. And I think he came from Afghanistan or something. And I knocked on the door. I showed him, he had his door all locked. So I showed him like from the window, and he opened the door and I told him, I'm starting my business and I only have 8 pieces. And he goes back, to his, he said, well, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. He goes in the back, comes back. He says, you know what? I would love to buy it, blah, blah, blah. And then he gave me an order for $500. It was like just a few pieces. And he said, you're going to be a success. You're such a good girl, blah, blah, blah. And then he said to me, it's all in the Quran. And so he, brings out this kind of the Quran thing. I didn't even know, I was just like so young, like what the significance of all of this was. But I think I visited him like during Ramadan or something. So he gave me this order, and sure enough, when the order actually came, from the sample to production order is different. And I had some problems. It was bangles, and I had some problems with hinges and things like that. And this guy had all the patience in the world. Like, he wanted me to succeed. So I worked out all the kinks. Then I went to New York and I visited Saks, Macy's, Bloomingdale's, and I got orders from all of them, actually. So, it's important for you to so what I did was I test drove it. I test drove in a real marketplace. And that's really important. A lot of times entrepreneurs get so excited and they'll go and get the biggest customer right away. That's a real mistake, because buyers, and trust me, if you're listening to me right now, I have done business with every single department store in this country except Walmart and Target.
Oh, wow.
Everybody. I mean, if you're in Chicago, Carson Pirie, trust me, I've done business with everybody, and I've done them with Harrods London, Galleries Lafayette, Takashimaya in Japan. I mean, these are where all the royal family shops. So if you make a mistake like that and those buyers gave you a chance and your things don't work, trust me, they will in fact, you'll be blacklisted by all the other buyers, because they all hang around together. So work out your kinks, test drive your products or service, make some mistakes and learn from that. And, when people give you criticism, like this doesn't fit right or whatever, just be very careful, listen, and fix those things, and then you'll be successful.
I love that. And that's like, you literally just gave a masterclass in business right there in 3 minutes. And so I want to ask you this question, because I think this is really curious to me. Is you went to Dallas and you talked to people. Sounds like you went pretty much door to door. Then you go to New York and you pretty much went door to door again. Is that correct? So, or did you have appointments with these people?
Yeah, no. So for Dallas, I'm glad you clarified this, because I didn't make that clear. In Dallas, I went to the Dallas Merchandise Mart, which is sort of like all the showrooms.
Got it.
So it's a place where all showrooms for everything. So they have jewelers. They have so if you're a small little mom and pop store, and you want to sell something and you want representation, this is where you would go to have your products represented, like scarves, all the different things. So it's a wholesale mart. That's what it is.
Got it.
And so I went there, then came back, got a pretty good read. When I went to New York, I actually made appointments with department store buyers. And there, what I did was, like when I went to see the Macy's buyer the first time, I actually flew in 2 days before. And this is another thing I want all of you who are listening, because I'm not going to say that I'm best at this, but I'm going to tell you one thing. The things that I'm telling you right now are things that I have paid dearly with money and time, because if you don't do this, you will pay it too. So just listen to me for a minute. I flew in 2 days before, and I went to the Macy's and I stood there. I stood by the jewelry counter. And I would watch people come and go, like pretty much in and out all day. And I would sometimes watch where she goes. Does she buy other things? I got some really preliminary data on that. So if I see a woman going in and buying like stud earrings, and she's buying like 2 or 3 pairs and she leaves, okay, I would make a note of that. But then there were some bracelets that these people would try. Every woman would come and try them, but they wouldn't buy them. So I made note of that. So why are they attracted to it, but they're not buying it? Are they too expensive? Do they not fit? What is it? Because they're, if 8 people are trying them out and only 1 buys them, it's a pretty poor hit rate.
Yep.
So the next day, when I went to see, a couple of days later, when I went to see when I actually had a meeting with my buyer, instead of, a lot of people would come in, and this, as happens in digital marketing, in anything. People think, oh my God, I'm going to throw everything on the wall and see what sticks. So, I sell this too, I sell that too. You got to niche down to like just the things that you can manage. So with my Macy's buyer, I told her, I said, you know what, I've been doing all this research. I went to, the Bloomingdale's, I went to all the different stores to see what your competition carries. But I also saw what your customers are doing in your store. So I would tell her, in your basics category, like your basic stud earrings, basic like band rings, I think you're very well covered. And I see that what I noticed was that, a lot of people will try your bracelets, but they wouldn't buy them. So here's what I'm thinking. And I would tell her, when I went to the Bloomingdale's, a couple of those pieces, they were priced about 10, 15 bucks less, but I didn't think the price was a real big issue. So I went through what I thought that where there was an opportunity for her. So I said to her, you know what? And then she asked me, like, I'm buying from so and so and so and so, and they're serving me pretty well. Why should I take a chance with you? I don't know who you are. I don't know what your company is.
Fair question.
Yeah. So I said, well, and how does your company differ from what they're offering me? So I said to her, I don't know what they're offering you, and they're my competitors, and I will let them speak for themselves. I'm not qualified to speak, on behalf of them. But let me tell you a little bit about myself. And so I basically told her, I did this homework for her, and that I believe she's being served really well in these categories. But in the bracelet category, I do believe there's an opportunity because there is a 10% hit rate. And she said to me, you know what? You're absolutely right. That is an area where I have an opportunity, but I just can't figure it out. I don't know what's happening. I know it's a huge opportunity, but I can't, nothing I've done sells, basically. She was very candid with me. So I asked her to, give me a try. So I just show her just my bracelets and bangles, which is what I actually happen to be specializing in anyway. So what happened, she gave me like a test order, which was like $50,000 actually, which was a lot of money back then. I mean, still is a lot of money today. But
yeah, especially as up and coming business. That's a big
$56,000 on 3 bracelets, because, it went all over the country. And, I got like 24 inches of space, because in a department store, you're judged by dollars per square inch, basically, because, it's the most limiting factor for them. Mm-hmm. And I outsold on a dollars per square inch basis everybody else. My inventory sold faster than anybody because it was a higher price point too. So she basically asked me one day, hey, since my business with you is so good, do you want to do you mind taking over my earrings and pendants? And here's another thing for those of you entrepreneurs should listen. I said to her, I could take it over, but only as a service to you. That's not what I specialize in. That category requires low price because it's a very competitive, it's like basic 4-prong, earrings. It's a very competitive field. You're going to need the price point advantage. I don't manufacture it. I don't have a factory. I have to subcontract to somebody. So I'm going to be a little bit more expensive than whoever you're getting it from. But I will match the price only to service you. But if if they're working out for you, then I suggest that you stay with them because I'm never going to be cheaper. And she said to me, you know what? I am making 80% of my profits from you. And it's only costing me like 1 or 2 phone calls a month because you do everything for me. And those other guys are making very little money, and it's just constant struggle. So you could have it. So I ended up with that category. So, pretty soon I ended up with all the categories. So, and that was a pattern, by the way, with all the department stores as well. I think when you say no sometimes, and you're really authentic and honest, and you explain why, they really respect that. They really respect it and honor it. A lot of times my buyer would pick up some styles and go, oh my God, I love this, I love that. And I'm like, and I would say to her, I just want you to know, like, I tried that at Neiman's and it was a bomb. So just understand that if you still love it, we'll find a way to test it, but just don't order a ton of it. And you know what? So when I do tell her what is working, they would just like clamp down on it and just give me huge orders. So being honest, authentic, and sometimes you have to walk away from things when, yep. but they pay dividends long term. And, I have my own podcast now, and it's amazing. I've had 17 episodes on. Almost everybody I've interviewed on my podcast are people I've known for the last 20 years. And it's all people like this that I've made connections with that, we just like instantaneously became colleagues, vendors, partners, friends. And it's just an amazing journey.
I agree. I think good people want to work with good people. And so the fact that you told people like, hey, you know what? I'm probably going to save you heartbreak. Don't buy that. This is good. Buy this.
Yeah.
They appreciate that because they can sense that like, okay, this person's authentic and they good business practices.
Right.
Exactly. So thank you again. Another masterclass in business. I love that story. I hope you guys are enjoying her monologue because I'm not going to interrupt that. That is, I'm learning so much off of this.
I don't want to be the monologue. I want you to talk.
No, that's good. I'm letting you go. So, so you did the department stores, and obviously then the rise of television happened, and you brought yourself to HSN. So I'd love for you to talk about HSN. What's it like presenting on television? All that goes with it.
Okay, so there are, I think, like 2 or 3 questions embedded into that. So I'm going to talk. The most important one for me is, and for all of you who are entrepreneurs, and I say all of you entrepreneurs, and you would think that I wouldn't know your specific need, but I do. The first thing I'm going to tell you is that most entrepreneurs don't start their businesses to make more money. A lot of entrepreneurs start their businesses to have more free time.
Yeah, to work for themselves.
Right. And to make something of their own. Yet, so many entrepreneurs end up working more time for less money. So, and I understand this. What happened was when I was my products were, at Neiman Marcus catalogs, like the inside back cover, inside the front cover. It was highly, sought after collection. So HSN had called me, way back in 1994 or whatever. And at that time, HSN was TV shopping was such an embryo state.
Yep.
And I kept saying, who are you? And they're like, we're at the Home Shopping Club. And I'm like, well, what the heck is that? So they told me, all this. So I tuned it on, and, they were selling dolls and swords and all that. And I said, oh my God. And I just don't know how to shut up sometimes. I mean, I'm not like mean or rude, but I'm always pretty direct. So when I finally got in front of them, I said, you know what? Honestly, like ending up on HSN, like in this environment, when I'm already at Neiman's and Saks and all these places, that's like my fear to end up there someday. Like, what have you got to offer me? I mean, I wasn't that blunt about it, but I kind of, asked them. So he's the president of the company at that time said, we're hooked up to 85 million homes. And I mean, they're hooked up to a lot more homes now, but hooked up to 85 million homes. And you have such talent, and, we need brands like yours, and we can make you a brand, because as good as it is, you're not a, internationally known brand, and we can make you that. And because we have all this coverage. And so I thought about it for a minute, and I said, you know what, with 85 million homes and without somebody with credible authority, somebody who they trust, that just spells disaster. Mm-hmm. And, I don't want to be a part of the disaster story. So, but then what happened was, I started doing the numbers, and I thought, you know what if I actually could make this work? Because if I could make this work, I could just come to Tampa once a month, and I could make my life so much simpler. What that means is I can spend the rest of that time with my family. So do I have it in me to really go against the tide, because TV shopping was just, nobody even knew what that was. Do I take a chance? Because if I took a chance, if I go to HSN, and things were like really cheap, because my price point at Neiman's was like $500 average price point. HSN would have been like $100. And if I couldn't sell it there, my business would be ruined. So I had to kind of really think about that. But in the end, I took the chance because I really liked the idea of being able to spend all this time with my family. And I worked like hell to kind of, make that work. And it did. I mean, their whole category of jewelry, the category that I was in, they were doing like $6 million a year or something total, with all the gas, with, all the airtime. And they ended up doing 50 million within a couple of years later, because, we were able to build it together. And they were amazing partners, by the way. The management team that were there at the time, none of them are there now. So because I wanted to prioritize my family's needs, I took that chance and it paid off. I mean, I think part of it is luck and part of it is just hard work. And part of it is that their circumstances require them to also invest in some brand. So, that was great. So that was part one, how I ended up at HSN.
Got it.
As far as your second question, what is it like presenting?
Yeah, like being on television and talking
my
about
God,
your products.
okay.
That's probably
It
so
is-
cool. Nerve-wracking.
It's what everybody says, but I'm telling you, it is so much pressure. So for those of you who are thinking about, presenting things on TV, it is an incredibly satisfying. There are just so many pluses, but the minuses are also there, and I want you to see both of it.
Got it.
The pluses is that you do get instant celebrity status, instant recognition. Okay.
Yep.
If a lot of people know you, if you're selling chicken on TV, you're a celeb. So, obviously that's there. Even if you're not selling chicken, you're on TV, you're a celeb. So you get that instantaneously. The other thing I love is the gratification. Like, it's really instant. So you get a read on what customers want. So if I sell, I have, this necklace and I have that earring, and, and then you can see the sales like that right on the monitor, because those numbers are pretty instant. So you can almost pivot. So if I'm presenting an earring that's supposed to be on for 10 minutes, say I'm supposed to sell it for 10 minutes and, they bought like 4,000 units or something, and I'm selling it for 10 minutes and I'm supposed to sell, let's say 1,000 units, and minute 5, I've only got like 200 sold. So you sucked up 50% of your time that you're allotted to, but you only sold 200. You can actually start to sell other things because obviously this is not working, right? So no other medium gives you that flexibility. If you're really good at this and you're actually able to pivot and do all that, it's very, you could actually start to sell matching items instead, or if there's a lot of other things you could do. So the idea that you can be, because in most entrepreneurs, you're your best salesperson because you're the closest person to the product. So the idea that you can get in front of 85 million people and talk to them directly is a huge opportunity.
Yep.
And you can also, get their reads instantaneously. Like I said, you can tell like which state the phone calls are coming from. And if you're like, I remember sometime my producer told me, oh my God, the minute you talked about the soccer moms, like the phone lines that just went up like crazy, must be soccer time in California. Try to say that again. So like, because you're listening and you're talking at the same time. So no other medium gives you that kind of excitement, the opportunity to generate the dollars and also shape your brand as you're talking.
Yeah, real talk. Like, you'd be able to, like, after going on HSN, you're like, cool, I need to order more of that product, or that product actually isn't that well.
Immediately, yeah.
Immediately, your customer user buyer traits.
Yeah. So that's great. The risk, the other side of the coin is that if you don't know what you're doing and you don't understand how to merchandise, I mean, if you're really good at what you do, you literally you can make 70 minutes out of the 60 minutes you're given. For example, we get these sheets like, okay, you're going to air this thing for 10 minutes, that thing for 4 minutes, and this thing for 2 minutes. So if I have 10 for 2, that's, 16 minutes total for 3 items. Well, if they're matching items, okay, if they're like, let's say a necklace, earring, and a ring, and I'm supposed to be selling the ring for 10 minutes, I could sit there, this ring, it's absolutely fantastic. By the way, I have this necklace coming up. And every time you mention that, basically the necklace will sell together.
Mm-hmm.
So if you bring them all 3 items at the same time, you may be able to sell it in 10 minutes, all 3 items, or you might be able to sell it in 12 minutes, which means you have 4 other minutes that you were given that you didn't have to use. So we always have these contingency items later on. So, if you're really good at this, you can really squeeze every single second, because, we're judged on dollars per minute. So, every network has different parameters and different categories have different parameters. I mean, if you're in electronics, you'd have to do something like $6,000 to $10,000 a minute every minute you're on. So that's
a lot.
Crazy. That's a lot.
What was your dollar per minute?
Well, the dollars per minute for jewelry category, it depends on the price points too, and depending on different networks. I mean, I'm not sure if I can actually share that with you just because
That's fine.
that might be under but
Yeah.
it's in the thousands.
It's an NDA. I feel it.
Yeah, it's in the thousands per minute. And if you're not producing that, you don't get invited. This is why, I was on HSN. I was supposed to be, so I had my contract ended after 2 10-year contracts. So that's 20 years. My finale show was supposed to happen like in July, but it happened in June and we sold out of everything. So I was actually there 19 years and 11 months. It was supposed to be 20 years, but I want to understate this. I was on there 19. But so most people don't last on HSN QVC for that many years. I mean, they last 2-3 shows or maybe 2-3 seasons. It's very rare somebody's on every single month for 20 years, basically.
That's unreal. That's
in
like
any TV,
that's
right?
longer than like television shows. That's longer than like athletes.
Yeah.
Like that is an impressive feat in any capacity you think of it.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. I then retired because my daughter got married in 2017, and it just so happens my contract was up in at that time. So I really went against the urge to sign another whatever, and I wanted to focus my time and all that because I wanted to give her the dream wedding. So she and I actually got to design everything.
Awesome.
Everything from the cloth to the flowers to the whole. It was a beautiful wedding. Then I wrote the science fiction. Then I wrote the $1 Million Hobbies and all that. So it's like a whole other life that I'm just having a lot of fun with. And, but now I'm just focused on, and I look at my journey and I'm thinking to myself, for those of you who are not entrepreneurs right now, and you're listening to this show, just listen to me. If I'm background noise, just listen to me for 1 minute, because this could be life-changing. Okay. If you've been thinking about doing something of your own, if you have dreams, okay, and you haven't done it for whatever reason, because you don't think you have the gumption to do it, you don't think you have the time to do it, you don't think you have the money to do it, you don't think you can succeed, think about this as one thing. If you're working in corporate America, you have made your companies, you have made billions of dollars for somebody else's dream. You're producing, you're building somebody else's dream, whether that could be your boss, the CEO who's making 20 million bucks a year, or it could be another entrepreneur that started from nothing and making all this money. You can do it. Trust me on this. If you believe you can do it, you can do it. Your view of yourself is going to determine your net worth. So you better start thinking about what you can do. Don't let anything intimidate you. If you got that kind of persistence and belief, and you stay with it, you will make mistakes. Trust me, you will, but you will get up again, because I teach this thing called the art of falling forward. I don't like fall back plans. I like fall forward plans. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that was inspirational.
It's very inspirational. No, and that's awesome, because this is what we talk about in the Leap of Fate every week, is taking your own dreams, your own fate in your own hands. 99% of us aren't born into a society or born into uber wealth where like everything will be handed to you. You, of course, epitomize that coming from South Korea with $30 to your name. You need to make it happen. It's going to take hard work. It's going to take dedication. But when you have the dreams and you have the belief in yourself, you're going to make good things happen. But it's not going to come easy. And that's exactly what you're sharing on this week's episode.
Yeah. And, I'm going to right now, if you come to my website, victoriawieck.com.
Look in the bio. It'll be right there.
victoriawieck.com or $1millionhobbies.com. I don't sell anything. Right now, it's not an e-commerce site. When I created the site, I wanted it to be a high engagement site. I just tired of people telling you, buy this, buy that, does there a coupon? So I created just an engagement site. So I'm going, I've been very blessed to have known so many amazing people on TV. Just so many people with great hearts that are in the same mind as me, which is we're all hitting our 50s and 60s. And we're like, what's going to be our legacy? That we just made a bunch of money and just took it and left? No, we want to encourage you, inspire you, but more than anything, I want you to today, when I get off this show, I want you to take action. Just one tiny thing you can do that will change your life. And so if you come to my site, right now, there's just an ebook you can download. But in the future, I'm going to continue to build in like little free webinars and things like that. And, there's all these industries I've learned because I don't come from this world. When I started podcasting, I get a lot of coaches who want to be on my show. And a lot of them, they kind of subscribe to this thing where you teach them what they need. You teach them why they need it, but don't teach them how. And I'm like, how does that work?
Yeah, I agree.
How does that work? I mean, why are you here then? So I mean, I'm all about sharing. I'm all about empowering other people. And truly, that is going to be my legacy. My dream is to create 1 million millionaires, because I just think that's actually quite possible, totally possible.
I love that. And what's the name of your podcast if people want to look it up?
$1 Million Hobbies. So
boom.
You could be sitting on a hobby, there, and I can go over there's a company called Smith and Hawkins. I don't know if you know this one or not, but it's a gardening tool company. And the guy was an avid gardener, and he could never, all the gardening tools were like made of aluminum and plastic, and they would just break. And so he had this idea all this time about what would it be like just have just tools that didn't break. So eventually he created his company, and I think it sold for, I don't know, some crazy millions of dollars. My UPS man, when I was building my business, his name is Tim Gibson. I'm not sure if Tim minds me talking about this. He and I are very good friends now, but Tim was my UPS driver. And every day he would watch me pack and do all this stuff. And we were just working just hard. All of us girls, working hard. And at 7:00, we were the last spot, and he would drive by, and he's like, how many more boxes do you have left? And I'm like, 48. And he would just grab a tape gun and start taping, she's like a UPS driver, and he would just like tape it and go down there. Well, he had a company he started, and it was a tanning lotion company. And every Friday he would bring us a new bottle, try this, try that. Well, that company that he founded is called Saint-Tropez. And Saint-Tropez sold. This guy went from UPS, driving UPS, literally overnight. He was still driving UPS trucks when the company was sold for like 100 million pounds to Lloyd's of London. Okay, wow. So when I tell you that, if you read my bio, it will say that I went to UCLA, USC. I want to tell you one thing. I've actually had to unlearn my degrees in order for me to be successful. What they teach you, I'm going to give you just 2 examples. What they teach you in MBA school, and I was a good student, is great for corporate America, but it's not great for small business. Okay. For example, they teach you goal setting, how you use, you got to be able to measure it, blah, blah, blah. They give you all these goal setting things. Well, if you are running a small division at Cisco or whatever, Microsoft, whatever, and you don't meet your goal, you get promoted sometimes because you got a great excuse, or you get promoted because somebody just quit, or you might get demoted. You'll get another job, but there was no cost to you. But if you're a small business and you don't meet your goal, you might go bankrupt. Mm-hmm. So when you are setting your goal as a small business owner, the risk management thing becomes almost 70% of your total equation. That risk management is almost never there in the MBA school way of teaching goal setting. There is none, actually, not the classes I've ever taken. Customer, we talk about new customer. Businesses need new customers. That's their lifeblood. You can only make money 2 ways: create new customers or cause the existing customers to buy more, right? Yeah. There's only about 2 ways. Well, I watched so many CEOs at HSN, ShopHQ, QVC, Macy's even, the CEOs talk about, we got, 2, 4, 5% new customers. If you're a small business owner and you're running, a restaurant and you're like, oh my God, our opening day was slammed. We got 300 new customers. Well, no, they're not your customers. You know why? this is how corporate America the stocks are traded and all that. But if you're a small business owner, you have to understand this. If you're selling soaps, bath soaps or whatever, the customer has 30 days money back guarantee. Okay. Until that customer comes back the second time, that is not your customer. They tried you, right? If you're running a restaurant and you got 300, people on opening day, you got coupons or you got all this, PR, and you get them next month, you have 100 customers. You know what? That means 200 of those people hated the food or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Not only are they not coming back, they're probably going to tell 20 other people why they didn't come back. So that's not your new customer. So when you actually in my business, I always say, okay, I don't count them until they come back the second time. Because when they come back the second time, they came back voluntarily, right? They tried the first time. That is your customer. And what I do is I don't count them until they come back the second time. But I also know, out of mind, out of sight, out of mind. So I try to get them to come back the second time quicker. So when you have this mentality that you don't have your customer until they actually come back for repeat business, you're going to try harder to make them happier. You hit them with more touch points, and you figure out what will make them happy. And when they come back, opening day, things are hectic. So the second time, you want to elevate that. You want to go, you know what, opening day was so fantastic. And I don't expect anything much bigger than that. And then they come back, they go, oh my God, I'm just so happy I came back because opening day, I missed this, and this place is amazing. That's how you build a loyal tribe. It's not, so in all the MBA talk about it's funny, when at USC, my last day at SC, and it was going to be my last day as a student forever, they invited some dude, supposedly he was the guru of whatever. And so we were listening to him talk, and we had just gone through all the finance courses, this course, that course. And he said to us, I'm just going to say one thing, and that's going to be the bulk of my speech. And he said, all these things about leverage buyouts and, getting financial loans and all that, just take it all out the window. Because if you got more dough coming in than going out, you made money, and that's all you got to remember. So I thought the guy, but now that's the one thing I do remember is the way you count your money. I mean, I can go through the whole finance of this, but really, I've had to unlearn those of you who actually have a degree right now, or you wish you had it, let me tell you why it's not as simple as just throwing out your degree, okay? This is what happened to me. So my heart tells me, this is another thing. MBA schools lie. That's another thing. They say that the most powerful word in marketing is the word free. And I'm sure you've heard that before. Yeah. Free is one. And then the second most powerful word in marketing is new and improved. Okay. Well, first of all, there's nothing free. And everybody knows this. Everybody who's awake knows there's nothing free. So when you tell people this is free, that is a lie. You built that into something. It's a lie. You're starting your relationship with your customer with a lie. It is not free. Number two, the word new and improved, a lot of times it's repackaging. They really haven't, done anything is it new or is it improved? It's because it can't be new and improved, right? So, it's like, I'm Korean, so I'm just listening to this. Well, how could it be new and improved? It's, if it's new, it's not improved, right? Yeah. So you start thinking about this. So I say the most powerful word in marketing is not free. It's not new. It's not improved. The most powerful word in marketing is you, the word YOU. So when I'm on TV, and, those of you who haven't watched me on TV, I suggest that you watch it one day, just because this is a mindset shift. So instead of saying, for example, a lot of people who don't last more than 2 shows do this way of selling, and I'm going to demonstrate it to you. So you have a beautiful collection, same collection, by the way. So person A, who doesn't make it, says, Oh my God, so great to see you, Randy. I was on my boat last week and I wore, this jewelry and that jewelry, and it was just so beautiful. And everybody in the whole wide world, like everybody who was on the boat was just awestruck by the beauty of this. And you should have it too. And it's only $30. Okay. That's one way to do it. And there'll be pictures of her on a boat, all that. I go on and I'll say, oh my God, I absolutely love the spring season because everything is dying out, and so that all of you can go out and live the life that you want to live. And when you're on a boat with your friends, or whether you're on the lakeside or at a backyard barbecue, you can be glowing and all your friends will be complimenting you, and they know that you got a good deal because if they know you, they know you're a good shopper. So it makes you look radiant, it makes you glow, it makes you have an amazing conversation, and you saved all this money. What person would you buy from?
Option second. Excuse me, option two, easily.
Exactly. So that word you, as opposed to the word I, because we made this whole conversation customer centric.
Yep.
Now on TV, I teach this for free, by the way. And it's really hard for people to do what I just did. And they tell me that, Victoria, I'm not you. And I'm like, what am I then? Because if you truly believe that your customer matters, then you have to think in their terms. You got to live their life. You have to be present when they're having fun, when they're getting compliments, right?
And to take it to the next level for a second, I started off not knowing English. Like, who am I? You were born in America. You know English. I didn't. So
right. Exactly.
You have the one up on me. What are you talking about?
So, what I was going to say is that if you are not on TV, okay, a lot of people who are on TV, quite a few people who are on TV actually supposedly watch me, for the selling techniques. But if you're not on TV, you're still talking to your customer. If you're talking to your customers on YouTube or you're talking to your customers on your website, make that whatever you're saying, just delete the word I, because what you think doesn't really matter. If you're selling something, whatever your customer thinks is what matters. So, in your marketing materials, you have to make them feel something. You have to make them feel like they're happier, or their problems are solved, or they're saving money, or they just avoided a huge problem. Whatever it is, you have to make them feel emotionally connected to you because you understand them. Yep. And I think that's a huge. It's a simple thing, but you'd be surprised, Randy, how many people who go to MBA schools don't understand what I'm saying, and they refuse to understand it. So what happened was, when I was doing my business, in my mind, I'm thinking, how could the word free be like the most powerful word? Because I don't want to use the word free because I think it's a lie. Well, then all your other friends, you go to class reunion, you go and listen to lectures because we're all entitled to take them after you graduate. They're just brainwashing you, saying like, this is effective, that's effective, all this stuff. And then you think, oh my God, either I'm really stupid. Am I just like really making a really stupid mistake with my money? Like, because you think that they're right because they got all these degrees and they're teaching and they're on TV and everything. And, and then here's you. And you're like, I wonder if I should try their way. And it just psychs you up. And so it just took me a long time to unlearn half this stuff. But, the good news is eventually I survived my MBA.
And it's interesting because a lot of people do say that. We've had this conversation with other people in this podcast, corporate life versus entrepreneurship life. In corporate life, they teach you to be robotic because they want you in that system. Entrepreneurship, you think in a different mindset and you see it in a completely different avenue. And that's exactly what you just talked about.
Yeah.
And the one thing for me is I think you're so right. And when it comes around the public speaking, that is what can make or break you. People ask me, because I don't really say uhs, likes, things like that.
Right.
How did I learn how to speak so eloquently? And I said, I watched Barack Obama on YouTube. The way that he spoke as a president, before and after, of course, is so soothing and slow and methodical. And he's so well spoken because of that. So that's how I started learning how I could speak without using that improper grammar. And now people actually said they listen to my podcast and they're like, Randy, I listened to you to learn how to speak. And that was the most humbling thing to me, because that means that I'm doing something right.
Yeah. I think, what I love about podcasting as a guest and also as a host is how much I learn. Like, I'm sitting at the other end, like when I'm interviewing guests, I'm just floored with the knowledge I've gained in the 17 episodes that I've just had. It's just like, oh my God, why didn't I do this before?
I agree.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And I think that's what makes it so fun and interesting and keeps us all so hungry for knowledge. And, there's curiosity inside all of us.
People ask me the same question. Why do you podcast? Or what do you get the most out of it? And I was like, I'm going back to school every week. I learned something new so much. And I think our audience here at Leap of Faith, Victoria, has learned so much from you this week. We're coming up on time. We're definitely over about an hour, which is fantastic.
No way.
Yeah. Oh when you're having such a great conversation, time just goes, which I absolutely love. So I have no problem with it. And
so Randy, I'm going to tell you something. I don't want to interrupt you, but
please.
This is the longest interview I think I've had in like a long time, really long time.
Maybe we got to do a part 2.
I don't know, but it is crazy. So, yeah.
But I think the reason is because here at Leap of Faith, we give our guests a platform to be able to just be open and transparent and feel like you're sharing and have a direct connection with our audience. And you have absolutely given us a masterclass in how you can achieve your dreams, achieve your goals, overcome adversity, learn on the fly to make those dreams a reality. So I want to end with this question and take it back to the first question I asked you after an hour conversation. Was it like being that girl who was 7 years old who came over? It's going to be 12-year-olds who came over from South Korea, who's now here today sitting with me and re-looking at what you've achieved. And what is that like feeling?
Yeah, it just seems like I'm living in somebody else's life in many ways, because when I heard you read my bio and when I heard you introduce me, it was almost like it was almost like you're talking about somebody else. Actually, by the way, that my sales are well over 500 million. I think it's closer to 750 million or something like that. But
who's counting at that point?
I actually felt when I wrote my book, I told my agent and my publisher, I don't think we should put a number, because I think it'll scare people. I think they're going to think I'm obnoxious or things like that. And a great friend told me, you know what, Victoria, you just have to tell the truth. And the truth is, because if you don't tell the truth, which is like, if you say I did, 30 million or whatever, that is also a lie. So just tell the truth and, let the chips lie where they may. But I never set out to answer your question directly. The money was never an issue with me. I wanted to do what I loved, which was to be creative and spend time with my family. The money all came as a byproduct. And I'm going to make a confession. I actually don't know, I have somebody else now paying all my bills. I haven't paid my bills for a long time. So I had somebody else paying all my bills. I have somebody else, literally, I have not had to worry about money for quite some time because I live below my means. And I also, when I go to China or India to source my products, I carry like a Jan Sports backpack. I don't have anything fancy on me, because I look at these people and they're making, $35 a month or some ridiculously low amount. And I don't feel comfortable walking around with like a year's pay for them. Yeah. So, I have that respect. So getting back to your question, my dream was to be able to do what I love, not have to worry about money so much, and spend time with my family. And that point came, I would say, within the first 4 or 5 years of my entrepreneurship journey. Yeah. So it's wonderful. And I would love all of you, every one of you listening, to check in with me not to buy products, but just check in with me and let me know how you're doing. Because sometimes it just takes a person who just walked a few steps before you. And the other thing I was going to say is listen to other people. Like if you're an entrepreneur and you're stuck at a place, or your gut tells you something, but you're holding back on something, even if you talk to an entrepreneur who has failed, that's never going to get up and do anything other again because he's old or doesn't have money, too depressed, you will still learn something from that failure.
Yes.
So listen to other people. And I hope all of you, I really hope I was an inspiration. I'm not here to brag about myself or by any means whatsoever. I'm just here really to inspire everyone to reach their dream. And that's my dream now. It was not the dream before, but it's now my dream.
And there's nothing bragging whatsoever. It's you sharing your story and how you created where you're at today. And if people want to stay in touch with you, how can they find you?
They can come to victoriawieck.com, which has both the $1 Million Hobbies podcast. And by the way, any of you who want to be on my podcast, I always say, I am looking for a future Victoria Wieck. I'm looking for, because there was a time when I was worth maybe $4. I don't know, you wouldn't have known the Victoria 20 years later, right? So I am looking for people who have that potential, who just need guidance. If you want to be on my podcast, go to victoriawieck.com and just fill out that little form. Just tell me who you are. And then I'm on Instagram, victoriawieckjewelry.com. And then I'm also on Facebook, Victoria Wieck, under Victoria Wieck. So it's a name that's pretty much out there quite a bit. I've got like 38,000 or something on Pinterest. So yeah, just come and find me. I'm a lot easier to reach than you would think.
No. And if you are listening on Spotify or Apple, please go to the bio of this episode. You'll see the links. Click it to find all those links you talked about. If you're on YouTube, just in the bio down below us. I actually do have someone. His name is Sean Leviton. I'm not wearing his shirt. I usually wear his shirt in this. He started a company called Aware Apparel, and I see a lot of him in you. So I'm actually going to tell him about this when we get off of this. And Sean, if you're listening to this, I hope that you've done what I've asked. I want him to come on your podcast. I think he's got a cool story to share. And he's kind of in that in between right now where he's sold to the friends and family and he's trying to take it to the next level of how do I get my business to now becoming well-known. And I think that you guys will have a really good conversation.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So Victoria, thank you so much for coming on today. Leap of Faith fans, I know this is a little bit longer episode than normal, but Victoria brought the value, she brought the energy, and everything she just taught us was a masterclass on how you can follow your own dreams, how you can go from nothing to something, and how you can really, chase that dream of being a better person individually in business and whatever that may be. Victoria, thank you so much for being on today. You said before you came on the podcast, you listened to 2 episodes. Do you know what our sign off is?
I don't remember.
It's okay. So I would like you to repeat after me.
Okay.
Stay healthy.
Stay healthy.
Stay wealthy.
Stay wealthy.
And have a good week, fans.
And have a great week, fans.
Deuces.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Have a good week.